the R5 right here. Truth is, I had the R4 on the DS when we were in Ireland 10 years ago. More, like 15 years ago. So it's really not my place to say, no, it's bad, you shouldn't do that. No, I had an R4 with 20, 25 games and I didn't have a physical copy for it. So, well, don't do like me, but I have to say that. Well, the DS at the time, as a student, cost quite a lot. So that was nice to have 3 games on it. So, yeah.
All right, Adam, any thoughts about cartridges in 3 games? Did you ever do that for any of your PlayStations?
No, probably the closest I did was when I first came to Taiwan. I had a few games that I wanted to bring with me or that I could not have brought with me or lost. I think my brother had borrowed my copy of 𝙂𝙬𝙢𝙚, and I wanted to play 𝙂𝙬𝙢𝙚. And because at the time, localizations in Taiwan didn't happen very often. So usually what you'd end up getting is, for instance, if a game was made by a Western publisher, it would be in English. But if a game was made by a Japanese publisher, it would be in Japanese. So like, for example, when Fallout 3 came out, they only had the English version of Fallout 3. There was no Chinese version. There was no Japanese version. You had to play it in English. Whereas if you were, like when Final Fantasy 13 came out, it had to be in Japanese. You couldn't get any other version of it. And so what I ended up doing is on my PS2, what you could do though is they had lots of shops here where you could mod it, and they would mod. So I have a modded PS2, and that would make it so it was no longer region locked. But then what they would do is they would have like they had at the store just a bunch of ROMs basically of all the games that were not available here in Taiwan, and then you could get those and they would be able to play those. So like, for instance, I wanted an English copy of 𝙂𝙬𝙢𝙚, not a Japanese copy, and that was the only way to get it. There was no other way to possibly get it except for maybe like eBay or something like that, because Amazon and whatnot didn't exist at the time. But that's probably the closest I've ever done to that. But I mean, I already owned 𝙂𝙬𝙢𝙚. I just wanted to get a new copy of it because I couldn't get my old one anymore. But yeah, that's probably the closest. And I don't think I ever got any other games like that, because shortly thereafter I got a PS3. And like I said, any games that were made by English publishers were still in English. So I was able to do that. And then, and then I would have to order cards online and buy things digitally from the PlayStation Store. So
good to know. So middle-aged gamers or other gamers, let us know down in the comments. What do you think about the R5, with the R4? Is it good? Is it bad? Is this destroying the gaming industry? Hey, middle-aged gamers, sorry about joining in the middle of the show. Of course, you didn't see the message. I need to head to get my vaccine in about an hour or so, which is why we started early, so that everyone can have a chance to say what they want to say. With that being said, you just talked about Nintendo Switch. I have another Nintendo story towards the end if we have time for it. But Antoine, tell us, what are you going to talk about today?
All right. So first story, and I'm glad Adam is here because that's something that I'm sure you're going to bring value to. I wanted to talk about Apex, which is not a game that I know very well because it's a hero shooter, and me and multiplayers, we're not that much friends, and I'm just too bad. So EA, like EA Sports, it's in the game, it has been in my head for like 15 years. So EA is reportedly exploring a monthly subscription for Apex Legends. They made a survey. Players would be happy to do a monthly subscription in the same way Fortnite does. So just to remind you what you do on Fortnite, for instance, you pay $11.99 a month, and you get an exclusive cosmetic pack, Fortnite Premium Battle Pass, of course, and V-Bucks, and occasionally some additional rewards. So that would be kind of the same system for Apex that they would be looking to launch likely pretty soon, because the reasoning behind that is that earlier this year, maybe you have seen it, EA revealed how much Apex Legends has, got them in terms of money. What you guys know? Can you give me a number? Apex Legends, how much EA earned on Apex Legends since it came out?
No.
Random number?
Like since it came out?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that's got to be more than $100 million, I would say.
You are so far. Okay, Adam.
million? I don't know. I am terrible with money.
All right, so
Counting.
8-Bit Legend has earned over $3.4 billion.
Hot damn.
For India, exactly. And yet, the company has also said that this year they failed to hit their monetization target. Maybe because Apex is not, a new game anymore or something like this. And, they need to please their shareholders, investors. So that could, be the reason why they're pushing to try to make more money out of their cash cow. Technically is logical. That would come after, not too long ago, they launched season 23 of Apex Legends, which included changes apparently focusing on core gameplay and reworking the lifeline, but no new legends were added. At this time, right now, again, this subscription is being sought over at EA, but it's nothing official. So maybe when you watch this video, it will have been made official. At this time, nothing official. But my question is, so in Fortnite, from what I recall with my son playing Fortnite, but it has been a couple of years now, but this subscription is completely voluntary, right? You don't need a subscription to play Fortnite. You can buy just the battle pass and play without it, right? So would that increase your interest, in Apex to be able to have this monthly subscription and get all the advantages which go with it? Would you be happy to see that? Or would you say, another way to, to milk the player out of their money? I hate that kind of practice. Just, tell us in the comments what you think. Good thing, bad thing? Would you like the subscription? Against this practice? What do you guys say?
So for me, I mean, if it's not changing any of the core of how it already works, then I don't see a problem with it, because, if you're somebody that's been playing a certain way, it doesn't change the way you play. It's just a new way to play. So, nothing wrong with options, right? I personally wouldn't subscribe to it. I mean, what I might do is I could see, like, if it was somebody like me, what I would do is I would say, okay, what are you offering this month? Oh, that's interesting. And then you just pay for a month package. But then I'd immediately cancel the subscription once I got it. And then, next month, if they don't have something I like, I'm not going to resubscribe, so it'd be more like, I don't know. Like, I mean, as far as a subscription, I get the idea. The subscription idea is that they want the money to consistently be coming in over and over and over again. Right. But for me, yeah, I would just be using it as okay, they drop these monthly packages. Do I want this month's package? Yes. Okay. Pay for it. No, I don't. Cancel, But yeah, I mean, if people play it enough and then they want to do that, you're basically getting it. I don't think it's all that dissimilar from what Elder Scrolls Online does, where you can play the game completely free if you want. But if you want to, you can pay a subscription. You get some premium stuff. You get some extra in-game currency and some other things like that. So, I mean, I see no problem with it as long as it doesn't change the way people have been playing. If it's an extra option on top of what we already have, that's fine. If it's if they're changing the model and expecting everybody to switch over, that's not fine. I mean, that's kind of how I feel.
Agreed. You can.
So I mean, way back in the day, right, I've told this story multiple times on the show that me and my friend Hans, we joined Warframe 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago now. We have the first 500 players, and that back then in that day, I paid a quote-unquote subscription, which is basically buying in-game money per month, roughly anywhere from like $10 to $50, and I did that for maybe about 6 years or so. And again, when I never paid that amount of money, it was just very slow to play Warframe. It would take forever to do things, and for the 1 hour of time I always play games, it was just not fun, right? I felt like, yes, I played my game, but I didn't accomplish anything today. So, and then going back to Marvel Snap, right? Whereas Marvel Snap has the option of every month you buy a monthly subscription of $10 and you get some benefits like a gold, like credits, which is just the stuff you use in game. And you'll get some cards, some card variants and stuff, right? Not actual new cards. And then some people like YouTubers often do this video of should you buy the monthly season pass? And for me, I just always buy it, right? It's It's like Netflix, right? Like I never cancel Netflix, though I know some people like, yes, I'll do Netflix for like 2 months, all this stuff that I watch, and then for some time I'll just cancel it. I'm just too lazy. I should probably not do that, but I think subscriptions are kind of like part and parcel when it comes to gaming these days. For a lot of these sort of free-to-play games, they're not bad, they're not good either. Like they're just sort of like, yes, for Marvel Snap, I'm happy, I paid, I get cool stuff. For Warframe, yes, it made me progress in the game faster, so I enjoyed the game more. Wonderful. But for Apex, I mean, it just depends. Like, if you're enjoying the game, yeah, I think you'll pay 10, 20, 30, 40, $50, depending on the person. So yeah, makes sense for me.
All right, well, then moving on. So if you are a fan of Hideo Kojima, then you probably are. This game called Death Stranding. Small little game. And apparently, Kojima Productions has now acquired the IP fully. So before it was produced by Sony for PlayStation, and then it was produced by 505 Games on PC. And it says that Hideo Kojima recently came out and said, we have acquired the IP from 505 Games, which makes no mention of Sony, but I'm assuming he must have it. And so this is good because this means that he can release it wherever he wants. If he wants it to be on PlayStation, it can be. If he wants it to be on Xbox, which it is on Xbox right now. So it just recently came out. And him having the IP allows them to do that. Now, is it going to impact Death Stranding 2? Obviously, it should be coming to Xbox at some point, but I don't think it will be at the same time as the PS5, only because PS5 has probably been in development for so long already that in order to release it at the same time, they would install PS5 development, switch over to Xbox development, catch that up, then put it all out there. So I'm assuming that at least Death Stranding 2 will probably release on PS first and come to Xbox later. But Death Stranding 3 should arrive. But part of the reason that they actually did that and acquired the IP is because Kojima really wants to expand the franchise. So they actually have plans with A24, which is the studio that does movies such as I Was Afraid and The Whale. So, you've probably heard of movies made. And Kojima Productions is working with them to make a live-action version of Death Stranding. It's going to be not following the game. It's going to be taking place during an event when we have all the void outs, when basically timefall starts to occur. So it's going to be kind of a prequel showing you how the world got into the state and hey, but they're going to be making a movie about it, and they'll probably be expanding to other things too. If I seen anything happening in Japan in terms of games, it seems like everything gets a stage play these days. So I'm sure we're probably going to get some kind of stage play or audio podcast type version thing that your Automata has maybe each or whatever. But I'm sure we'll be seeing that. So if you are a big fan of Death Stranding, or fan of Hideo Kojima, great news because it means that it will be more accessible, exciting news.
I mean, that's interesting. Antoine, do you have any thoughts about that? To me, the first question is, where did they get the money to buy the IP? That must be like hundreds of, maybe not hundreds, but like at least $100 million.
How they did that was one thing that, like, again, it said we have acquired the rights from 505 Games, and I'm okay, but what about Sony? And there was no mention, but apparently they said they have the IP now. So then they said we acquired it. They didn't say how, and they didn't mention this other person who had. I think Sony used to own the IP, not just the publication right. So I have no idea. There have been no details on how they did it. It's just we did it, and we're moving forward.
They made a loan at the bank, and Kojima, after 15 years conversation, look, mate, makes sense. Okay, take the money. Just leave me alone.
Using himself as collateral.
Yeah, maybe.
Guy's got to be
honestly,
so much.
A series or a movie on the original event of Death Stranding would be great because that's one of the reasons why I just don't want to play games that I don't get anything about the release, and I just don't get that at all. So yeah, you just need some kind of rationale behind it. Big movie because big sound, and cinema, small. So actually, I would watch that. I know that I would come out after 2 hours. I would massive headache thinking, Trend, of course. But yeah, no, I would actually.
And on that note, I think let's jump into your second stories while we have a chance. So Antoine, tell us about Lego Horizons, which is apparently doing better than the remaster.
Well, it doesn't yet. It's not out yet.
As are you?
But yeah, no, exactly. That's all I want to say. It's actually a busy month for Guerrilla. Guerrilla, yeah. Less than a month ago came out Zero Dawn Remastered. And I honestly don't know if he did well or not. What you said, I guess it was kind of which is logical in my idea because not an old game, so why would you? It's kind of. But yes, on the 14th of November, which for me is for you guys in 2 days, the global release of Lego Horizon Adventures on the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and PC of Xbox for $59.99, which is okay price for Lego. And no, it's gonna be great. So and this is taken from the Sony page, right? Join Hunter Aloy as she leads her friends, so Eren, Jarl, and Tirsa, on a quest to save the meadows, forests, and mountains of Earth's future, of course, from a man called Hellis. Why Hellis and not him? Who leads a gang of sun worshippers that follow an ancient evil shrouded in mystery. Sun worshippers that we actually don't think so. Well, there's a whole city of sun worshippers within the first game. So anyway, it's gonna be either solo game or 2-player couch co-op, or issue online play. And because it's a Lego game, you get to customize your home, your characters with usual Lego goofy atmosphere. So it's gonna be, I think, quite fun, and I'm actually quite tempted to it. They really insisted. I never played the Lego game, although I have been tempted. They really insisted that this time the whole, like robot slash animal or terrain, everything has been made entirely in Lego bricks. Suppose that in the previous ones made some part of the game war. But here, like everything was made based on the bricks, which give it, this little artistic direction which we all like. And me, I'm there, and I'm a very, very big Horizon fan. I really love the free. So that's really a game that I'm gonna add to my wish list to play into it. What about you? Even though it's a Lego game, would you be interested in getting it and adding it to your backlog?
Played a Lego game since Lego Marvel Heroes, and I really enjoyed it. I just never played another. I think I actually have the Skywalker Star Wars. I'm pretty sure I have that one. But yeah, from what from reviews I've seen people saying, it's actually sounds like it just follows, or not the leader. Well, yeah, claimed that. But yeah, it sounds like they're following. It sounds like they're just following, probably fairly loose. Have kind of a, and yeah, I agree with you. I think the story and first gameplay obviously slightly, well, I mean the first one slight improvement to gameplay, but big down.
Yeah, no. And I mean, if you're wondering about Adam's perspective on the second game, go back and watch some of the old episodes because he does mention this a few times when he was playing it. Yeah, no, I've always wanted to play the Lego games. I've just never had a chance. And then as Antoine's talking about them, I realized I probably never will just because there hasn't been a Lego game that's like by me Crian. And yeah, so I think they're wonderful. They look really nice. There's a few documentaries about how Lego's gaming division changed the fortune of the actual company. How Lego was making this stuff, and then I think one of the CEOs that came in, or the CEO that came in a few years ago, was like, "Hey, we have all this amazing IP. We should partner up with Marvel, with DC, with all these other people, and make some games." And now they have this really large, substantive, money-making division in Lego. So again, free to watch on YouTube. Check it out. It's actually pretty interesting that how you could sort of augment a business like that and do something totally different without having any expertise in making games and still make some fun, cool games that, again, I've never played one, but I've heard lots of people talk about, hey, these are good to play with your kids or good to play as a family, low, like They don't require a lot of CPU hardware resources. So again, they're quite affordable from the gaming perspective as well. And I remember the Harry Potter like bundle on Steam at one point was like $30 for like 10 Lego Harry Potter games, which is pretty good for 10 games for $30. Not bad at all. But Adam, what is your last story for today? Since we didn't have a chance to talk about it earlier.
That's okay. So my last story is going to be about 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢, which is obviously the competitor for The Sims. It's coming out. Well, it was originally supposed to be coming out at least in early access in fall 2024, but as you might have noticed, fall 2024, right now, it's not out. So where is it? Well, they have delayed it and they have pushed it back to March 28th, 2025 is going to go launch early access. Game still, we don't have no idea when the full game. But yeah, the reason is they said when they did the 𝙂𝙢𝙢 Creator Studio, did that demo over the weekend where they let people create their characters and whatnot and kind of play around with character creation. And they said they got a lot of feedback from that. And because of that, they said, okay, well, we taking that and now exactly what we want to be doing. And that's going to take a little bit more time than we thought it was. So because of that, they have pushed it back. And yeah, it's oh, the thing the guy compared it to, obviously, use the metaphor of, when it comes to primates, humans take the longest. So if you look at a lot of animals, like a baby horse can walk minutes after it's same with a part of the animal you get, kind of the longer it takes for eventually, or less intelligent they are, the more quickly they can just kind of adapt to their instincts and what. And 𝙂𝙢𝙢 being a very intensive game, going to take a long time to get that development done. And gaming was the animal kingdom. It's amazing. So, interesting take on it, but yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, Life by You kind of died. That was very disappointing. And we've had some Sims news saying that Sims 5 is not coming out. We're having Sims 4. So looking forward to 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢, although I am kind of curious how it's actually going to work. Obviously, it looks very graphically. They do have the so spec out white kind of, but also from what I've seen when they're talking about it, it seems like it's going to be a little bit different than The Sims in that, for example, you are playing as some kind of god thing, which if you are in The Simpsons, but for direct when you definitely kind of god have this little cat avatar floats around and helps you out and take direct control of your 𝙂𝙢𝙢. Similar, sorry, they're not called. They're just called. You can take direct control of your 𝙂𝙢𝙢, similar to what we could do by you, rather than kind of this. So I do think it's going to be scratching a slightly close enough that it did want more of. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how similar it is and how well it kind of establishes itself as something different. Are they actually going for something different, or are they just trying to make a? It'll be interesting to see. I'm really curious to see what happens with it.
Yeah. I just hope they don't do a Star Citizen thing. It'll be amazing, graphically fantastic. You can do everything you want in there in 15 years. We're planning to release now in a year, 2 in 3. We'll see. I just hope they just don't drop the project. Is that the thing of Star Citizen, right? 8 has never been cancelled because that would be terrible for all. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it's going to be a great game when.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw this on IGN. I think Adam saw it at the same time, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" But I mean, Adam, I mean, I can't imagine what sort of feedback from that like character created them would say, "Hey, let's delay this game from an ideal December early access time to March, the middle of nowhere." I mean, unless they were releasing on Easter, I mean, maybe that's kind of like a holiday thing. But like, why would they push it back? It doesn't make sense to.
Yeah, it seems because I mean, obviously there was no core gameplay. You're not running around about the city. You're just creating characters. But it might be the kind of thing where like people, because I didn't get a chance to play it that weekend, so I don't know. But it might be the kind of thing. Okay, this was not optimized on as many. Maybe it's less about we further and more about like it's not that we're in studio as develop the game work on. It might have been the kind of thing where they're like, oh, okay, this is far less optimized than we're hoping, and this is just the character creation. Want to get the full game working. That could be part of it. It could also be a part of, again, They said feedback. So if you've ever done a beta before for closed beta, they'll have like a little kind of a sheet thing, and they'll have like usually a questionnaire, fill it in, and they'll ask you questions. What could you see to, how did you feel about this aspect? How did you feel about that? What are you expecting to see? And maybe people were putting in things like, things that have to, okay, I've created my character, maybe talking about like, oh, I'd really like to be able uh, customize not just look, but like goals and their personalities, and just things that people are kind of saying like, oh, I'd really like to see that. And if they enough people saying, I want this, and they're kind of like, oh, well, maybe we should do that, or maybe pushing a little bit further on that. Maybe that was kind of a minor priority for players. It's a major priority, so that's a possibility. For instance, as I'm looking at the trailer right now, they're showing children. They're showing like people that are starting families. Maybe people when they were creating toys were like, "Hey, you know what? I'd really like to see um, more about families and genetics and parents mixing children." And people are talking about that. And maybe originally, like for instance, Life by You, when it was says we're not going to do children, something we're going to focus on later. And right now, we're just focusing on adults, and people really like families, asking for more family type stuff. You want to be able to have my parents pass on traits to the children, not just genetically or look, but like personality traits. And that enough people are saying we want this, and kind of like, okay, it's the big priority. We were thinking, let's get people walking around the city as a priority. Only ask, make sure we have. That's a possibility. I don't know what feedback they got, but sure people had a lot of opinions.
They definitely do. And speaking of opinions, I apologize to Antoine immediately for where this next story is going to go. Because I'm like, this idea has been sort of rumbling around in my head for the last few days. And just because it's impacted my work as well. So, again, I'm going to say this straight off the bat. The guys are much more balanced when it comes to the way they speak and ideology. So just take what I say with a grain of salt. Whatever they say is probably a bit more impactful. So Donald Trump won the last US election, right? And it's had reverberating impacts everywhere. And my question to the guys today is, what is the impact gonna be on the gaming industry? And I know the initial thought to both of you might be like, it's not gonna have an impact, right? But if a story I was gonna do last week when Anton was not here was like the idea of DEI detector, right? There's a website where it's like, hey, this game is woke, and this game is woke, and we hate this game, and that sort of stuff, right? And in the US, as you know, right, the Supreme Court is stacked conservative at the moment, right? And it's only going to get worse. So I can imagine, again, just straight up the top of my head, like saying a conservative group saying, hey, these games are not good for our children. They're teaching them to be gay or trans or whatever it is, or that women are strong people, can be strong people, or like feminism, that sort of stuff. And I see a future where certain left-leaning studios or people who want to make games like Dragon Age the Veilguard or like Life is Strange, right? Like, yeah, we can't make games in America anymore. We're moving to Canada. We're moving to other places where the laws are a bit more relaxed. Right? Or we just don't even move. We say, hey, all you American devs, we're firing you, and we're going to make this game in the US or in France or some other place. Just because they can, and because they don't want to be in an environment where they're forced to make a city kind of game. It feels to open up this can of worms. Whoever wants to go first.
I mean, I honestly don't. I mean, let's just look at, like, for example, people say like, oh, have the Veilguard is woker, but I mean, in Japan, from Korea, we get Stellar Blade. I mean, gaming's always had different sides. I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, would they move studios out of America into somewhere else if laws change? Yeah, I could see them. Um, I don't know how many laws are going to change. I think it's probably beneficial to us that if Trump, they're not executive it up are different. It's a good thing. Um, so yeah, because he has to finish everything this term. He can't get a third term. So, but yeah, I don't think we're gonna see too many changes in that. guard. And yeah, like you said, I mean, people can just move to Canada, which is obviously is going to. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see much in terms of what people can do. I think we might see a difference in what we're doing. Which to my environment, so people might, you know, guys are just unhappy with the way. So I mean, we might see artistically, but I don't think fundamentally we'll. I think we'll always have games for everyone. I don't know how many games there are on Steam. Just keep popping up. Those are always going to be there. So yeah, I think you'll still be able to find what you want.
So same. I don't think it's gonna move too much because the whole gaming industry is very neat. Really more gaming plus Hollywood. If you recall, Busters or female cast of Busters, and that didn't change anything, right? Of course. And to be honest, take Ghostbusters as an example. America is the country of freedom. You can't just come and say, don't do that. That wouldn't be it. I don't. But don't have any problem with stuff as long as it's not for the sake of being Busters. It was really just a remake with males just because it was all. Didn't try to think of clever stories or wasn't really shy. Well, it was criticized, not because it was woke or anything, right? So you can make something as long as its script is intelligent, sort of, right? Very good DNA. So, no, honestly, I don't see formal use of change. And I think the mentalities as a whole are moving it to the list for me at this time. I don't think it's just a problem. So that's very, that's a different. So that's same answer as Adam. No, I don't think change much. And Montreal is a very big gaming in, right? Please come. Always need job here. We're happy to get you.
All right, then a follow-up question on that, right? Like looking at the shift in the demographics, right? And again, Adam can speak more to this. And you lived in America for like 6 years. So like we saw a giant portion of the center of America and all these swing states shift red, right? And in red, in not American, is like right-leaning conservative. In theory, anyway, that might be a different thing. So with this shift, will not these big companies like Disney say, hey, we can't make a TV show like Agatha all along, right? Where now the kid is gay or like bisexual, pansexual, whatever you want to call it, right? Or we can't do games with characters with different sexual orientations or non-binary characters, right? Or companies say, hey, like Walt Disney's resisted this in Florida, they did have that story of the activist shoulders like, yeah, Disney needs to stop making this quote unquote woke stuff. And I hate that word because it's not woke. It's just, this is the way life is. But again, my opinion. And while you guys are right, like, I don't think Trump, because, I disagree with that. Like, I think you look at executive orders, right? Look at the idea of saying, hey, the president's like, this is what I think. And I write it in an executive order and this is now the law, right? And, I remember seeing a story of saying, hey, the number of executive orders in the last like 12 years of American presidencies have increased like 300%. So, well, I don't imagine Trump's going to do an executive order about the gaming industry, but he's going to do like what a lot of states did when it comes to bathrooms. Like, hey, if you're a guy or you're a transgender man or transgender woman, you have to use what your original gender by birth bathroom is, right? Like, so if you're a woman now, but you're a boy, you have to go to the boys' bathroom, right? And I can imagine Trump saying, hey, gaming studios, we don't want any of this stuff in here. Here's an executive order saying that there are only two genders and this is what has to exist in gaming, right? Like, you're a man or you're a woman, that is it. I can imagine that happening, right? I can imagine gaming studios say, hey, look at this shift in America, look at this shift in Europe, right? With Germany, when the AfD or Hungary or other places, right, where like, yes, the right-leaning parties are winning, kind of. And companies saying, yep, sorry, everybody else, or brown people, or black people, or transgender people, yeah, we don't want to make content for you anymore. What does that mean?
Um, I don't think. Okay, so first of all, I think Trump talked. He's trying to get. So I don't know if he would really do that as. I don't think he cares enough. But I do think you're right about, like, for instance, Disney saying, "Hey, we're going." That's the thing. Okay, so if you have a company like, say, Disney, and they're making things that appeal to transgender people, I don't think Disney actually cares. I think Disney cares about money, and they're tapping it. And likewise, they're just as easily to turn around and be like, "Hey, let's make more conservative stuff," because that's where the I don't think they actually care or have principle. Um, Call me cynical, but that's just my opinion. I don't think Disney cares one way or the other. I think Disney only cares about their bottom line, and if they think that they can make money off of it, if they think they can make money off of things like Agatha all along, go up, they're going to continue doing that regardless of what Trump says, or whatever. If they look at people and they're like, "Oh, well, we're not making money on these shows, but this other show here that's a little more traditional is making money. Let's refocus back in that." That's where the money. So I wouldn't trust it with their takes on morality or anything like. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think like, for instance, the Sims, the original Sims game had Sims weren't straight, they weren't they weren't really, but they weren't really anything. But a female sim could hook up with a female sim, or a male sim could hook up with a male sim. This was way back in 2000, game first release. This is long before Obama came through. It was Obama, under Obama, where they were across the board.
God, I don't remember.
I don't remember. This is way before that, right? And people were making this, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna make it," and you don't care, So I don't think laws are gonna impact. I could see laws impacting, like, say, ratings board. And of course, games are like eating because we did that team. I think in that sense it could impact game, but I don't think they're actually that. I just think it's a bit priority. Go in there on. Um, Although, to be honest, I mean, they did do it with, like, cigarettes and stuff, right? Where now cigarettes and so I mean, it is possible. They could do it, but I just don't happening. People responding very well if they're, like, mandating. Um, I think it's more of they're just gonna say. I think it's more companies are just facing popular, pays the bills, and if like Veilguard continue successful, keep making games like that. What's gonna affect that? I think it's gonna be less about laws and social media and people influencing each other and kind of feedback loops. Don't buy this game. And then if those games get bombed and don't make money, then companies aren't gonna make those games because they don't make money. I don't think the might be a cultural shift, but if it's a cultural shift, I think one of those things where it's like, well, can we blame Trump? Well, voted in because of the cultural shift caused it. Symptom cause. I don't think self reflective.
John, final thoughts on the topic?
I don't know. I don't think they can argue that.
Wonderful. Middle-aged gamers, thank you very much for tuning in today. Apologies for the weird timing. This is entirely my fault. I need to hopefully it's the rain. It started raining here out of the blue yesterday. I need to just throw on some clothes and take stuff and get a magazine. Just walk. I jumped into the Todd painting. Game catch out. Anything to search for this video been out on today game or so. And as soon as you get a date to once the break is give me a game maybe a list of politics, hopefully. Absolutely.
Hopefully I didn't offend anybody. Sorry if I did.
All right, guys, easy, and you